Okay, good afternoon. Greetings to all our friends uh, out there. Welcome to our Circle of All Nations December 21st solstice event. I'm hoping everybody can hear me, and if anybody would comment to that effect, that would be super. Um, it's Romola with the Circle of All Nations, and celebrating yet another one of the solstice events that Grandfather Commander initiated oh, almost 2 decades ago. And consistent with his approach, I lit the sage uh, to bring all our minds together in a good way to listen and share and try to understand some of the things that he tried to teach us about. And uh, we also like to use the sage to bless us and to keep us in a circle of protection. And during this politically challenging time, um, many of us really miss the prayers and the blessings of Grandfather William Commander. Remember him in this work so profoundly. Moments like this. Okay, I am now going to see if anybody can say whether they can hear me. But I am just going to actually also just assume that folk can. And just give me a second to sort out my page. And then we're ready to share. So this is a Circle of All Nations presentation on the work of Indigenous Elder William Commander. And it's not exactly linkages with South Africa. It's actually our December 21st event where we're actually focusing on this very, very special solstice event. Okay, I see Midurin is there and Janine, and so yes, thank you very much. I shall increase the volume. And great Midurin that you're there. Midurin is one of our colleagues at Carleton University, and I woke him up pretty early to help me complete this very first image that we're sharing today. And this is an image Madurin created for Circle of All Nations. He's one of the work study students working with us this fall term, and he's got just amazing graphic skills. And he created this iconic image of Grandfather William Commander for us. And I'm sharing it now, I'm introducing it now, because in essence it carries our prayer for the geocosmic. Maduran placed grandfather besides the grandmother moon and the symbol of the morning star, embedded in a body of stars and planetary stellar bodies. And of course, that is the indicator and the confirmation of the importance of the cosmic world to William Commander and his ancestors. As most of you know, his name was Ojigwana, which meant morning star, and the morning star shone so brightly when he was born that his mother gave him that particular name. And we'll be talking a little bit more about stars and planets a little later today. um, the key elements that supported all sorts of life in North America and elsewhere are also embedded in this image. Um, with the water, the um, iconic image of water crystals helps us realize that oxygen uh, animated life in this earth that evolved over 13 billion years ago. And it was because of that life was possible on earth. And many of us know that the rocks that held the earliest microorganisms that created oxygen were part of the Ottawa River watershed landscape. And so we're honoring the special land that we are on right now and the waters that are part of our Ottawa watershed, uh, the earliest building blocks of life. Uh, they sit on a base of rocks, which were the sort of foundation of Mother Earth. And in the Ottawa River watershed, we find rocks that represent four periods of Earth creation. It's the only river that holds the rocks and reveals the rocks that reveal this ancient history of Mother Earth. The iconic figure at the back is a photograph of the sleeping giant in Lake Superior. So the Great Lakes of Canada are the largest body of fresh water in the world, and the amazing rock sculpture created by nature was in, I think, 2007 voted the most popular symbol of Canada. That iconic figure, we have said, has been awakening, and it's part of the growing consciousness of the voice and philosophy, way of life, culture, heritage, and passion of Indigenous peoples. And some of us may recall when grandfather left us, he lay in his canoe in his lodge for a while, looking very much like that image to me. Below the canoe, the symbol of movement on the body of water, but also in this image of the wave, capturing the sense of air, of wind, of one of the other critical elements. So these were the items that created a sense of what was most important and what was most meaningful to indigenous peoples. The connection also then with the land is captured in the frame, the birch bark image in the frame of the image, and in the image of the wolf, we see the connection with the animal world, the four-legged. Moving through the waters, we have the turtle, reminding us of the importance of the meaning of turtle to indigenous peoples of the Americas, actually indigenous peoples all over the world and perhaps others as well, but particularly here where the land was called Turtle Island. Some of our Circle of All Nations friends will recall that we've presented images of North America. We compared it with the body of the turtle and note the likeness. And we wonder oftentimes, how did indigenous peoples know this and know that this was what this place was really about? And of course, the turtle bridges between both the water and the land, needs the land to lay its eggs, and it needs the water for life, emphasizing the importance of both. Maduran has also included the iconic symbol of the North American eel. And this is an ancient species that is spawned in the Sargasso Sea in the North Atlantic, and then finds its way along the St. Lawrence all the way up to the lakes in Ontario and in Quebec. In this process, it changes form, it takes on new names, it and it feeds and supports people, and then it spends 20 years, 22 years in the lakes here, particularly in grandfather's territory, maturing. Depending on the density of the population, it becomes its gender, and then the female eels navigate their way through the Ottawa River, along the St. Lawrence, back into the ocean to spawn. And so this process of movement is also of great symbolic importance in terms of the journey of life to many people. And the eel is also very high protein food, a traveler's food, very important in its capacity to crawl over rocks, to create its own slime in order to move. Unfortunately, it's been pretty well decimated by the huge number of dams that block its passageway. And in 2007, grandfather ignited really a big passionate prayer for the protection of this important species. And finally, I want to mention the wolf. Uh, uh, this was a particularly important energy supporter, animal protector of William Commander himself. And a part of the story there is when he was a child, he went out to the camping grounds, trapping grounds with his father, Grandpa Alonzo, and he went sent off to go and check the traps. And all of a sudden, he found, as he was heading out on his snowshoes uh, into the winter, his little dog kept jumping onto his snowshoes. He was agitated. So William eventually picked him up and looked around and found that he was being surrounded by 4 huge timber wolves, big dogs, he called them. He held his own dog and just looked at them. He was in such awe of their majesty. And after the longest time, the alpha wolf lay down on its belly, scratched its paws into the air, and then got up, howled, and bounded off, and the other wolves followed him. When William came back and told his father about this, his father asked if he was afraid. And he replied he hadn't been. He was in so much of awe, the majesty of the wolves, that it didn't occur to him to be afraid. Over the years, Wolf Spirit has supported his work and given him a sense of huge protection. And we can talk about that at some other stage. But for now, I'm going to say I think incorporated in this image then is our prayer for cosmic life, Mother Earth, the 4 elements of earth, water, wind, and the fire reflected by the stars, the moon, the plant life, and the animal life, and the iconic journey. Thank you. Okay, I've used that word iconic so many times. I guess it's just really a part of my headspace right now. I'm going to now move to a special moment because I think I'm going to be able to get grandfather's daughter, Evelyn Commander, to say hello to us. While you explore that image, I shall try and call her. Hi there.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Evelyn. I've got you online. I'm,
Oh,
I'm going to make my phone real loud.
okay.
And so far, just basically what I've done is introduce our event. I've burned some sage, and I'm praying for the best. And I showed an image that one of our students created with the picture of Tada,
Uh-huh.
and it's behind him is the moon. Then there's the stars. There's a canoe. There's water. There's turtle. There's rocks, and the birch bark. And we say these are all the things that are really important to your father.
Oh, yes, the Mother Earth and the sky and the water and
Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay, so I'm so very happy that you're able to join us today.
Well, I'm happy too.
Yeah, and I'm hoping this is all loud enough and people can hear you. I'm going to hold you pretty close.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so as you know, over this last year, we've been doing these Facebook Live events,
Mm-hmm.
and we're waiting for you to get uh, technically primed up so that we can have you here in picture. But today we're very glad to have you here in words.
I'm gathering for what?
We're very glad to have you talk with us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, would you like to say a few words then? This is our special December meeting.
Uh-huh.
And we know December is also important to you because you've got a special day coming up pretty soon too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course that special birthday will take you right back to your childhood and then all the years of growing up. So tell us a little bit about your father, your mother, and your grandpas, and whatever else.
Right now,
Yeah, right now.
well, first of all, I'd like to wish everybody good health and keep moving and go. And before we talk, I talk with the Great Spirit, Kichimanedod, and I go to the Shemanedod, the one that created everything. And there is only one God for all human beings, one Creator. But what I'd like to talk about is actually being. I was born in '45, and then I became a Christmas package to my father and my mother. And my first language was Algonquin, and I also was raised. I have to say, I was raised in a very very special way, and not only with my parents, my father and my mother. I was also very close to my grandfathers and my grandmothers, and when you and then I was. They taught us a lot about respect to all creation and how to do things without hardly anything with you. In the bush, when you're a child, stories of each tree, why the tree that's here, and how he will, and you would ask him, what are you here? What's your name? I'm the birch tree, tells you. And then he has his medicine. And I am here for your canoes, for your baskets, all these things that were taught to us from when we were very little. And we'd be sitting beside them when they're doing their canoes and tides and something that we didn't have all kinds of fancy things like they had in the city. We had to do with what we have. And eating wild meat, the first time I seen a coconut or a jello, I was quite older. I was almost afraid of the jello. And anyway, we had a hard time to understand a banana. I remember when I first tasted banana.
Oh, really?
We were healthy with the wild food.
Uh-huh.
and the sturgeon, and each one of all these animals are created and have each a gift them too that they showed us. Not only just to eat them, because this great spirit put something in all life of all human beings, of all the creation that the Creator created. And we kind of, and if we were sick, we knew which one to have. Partridge, if I need rabbit. Nothing was wasted, and we didn't take more than what we needed. We didn't take lots, and the sad one was with Hudson Bay. But anyway, we used our fur. My mother made a fox blanket, a wolf blanket, and she did all these things. And my father would take me to the movies with the dog sled.
Oh, yeah?
And we go. He'd bring me to go to the movies in town with the dog sled.
That's
And
cool.
with odd stones in the front of under the blankets for my feet so I don't get cold.
Okay.
And really, my dad, he brought me to a zoo in the bush, and there was big sea turtles, big ones. And when you're small, they're big.
I guess.
He lifted me up, he put me on top of the turtle.
Oh, yeah.
Walked my hands, and he walked me around the zoo there. They were free in the bush there with the people. So my father got me walk around. Today I know why, because he wanted me to talk lots about Mother Earth.
Okay.
How to respect the Mother Earth. But our stories were with if you eat a rabbit and his bone and he has a mirror inside of him, and he used to say, "Look in there, you're going to see the vision of the future."
Oh, and talking about that, can you tell us a little bit about Grandpa Smith? Because you've told me many, many times, actually years and years and years, about Grandpa Smith and prophecy.
Well, he was a visionary. He was a very holy man. And when in 1971, before he passed, I went downstairs and my mother said, "Kishore, miskinu enamik. Your grandpa wants to talk to you." So I went down and he prayed with me first and put his hands on my head and told me that there would be a white chief building across the road where we were. And he told me that our people were going to be counselor and chief, and they would be dictated by the white chief, and after a while they'll leave them go. But the big part also, he said that our people were going to go through a lot, but meanwhile we were not allowed dancing yet to really go dancing. So he said, "You're going to start dancing. You're going to do the drums. You're going to wear your long dresses, and you're going to see in the future." He said, "When you go to town, you won't even know what to eat. There's going to be so much food that you didn't see yet. You will go to another store and see things that you never seen. You're going to see when the man came across the ocean, he brought a black book. Anyway, he turned around and followed to be his own God. And he said that this man, the Bible, was very the same as us.
Uh-huh.
And we already knew. We were singing the song of away, hey, away, away, hey. So that was one of the names of God. And he said it was a love book. But the Revelations and all the beginning of Genesis, we already had that.
Okay, so
Anyway, and then the other one was there was going to be a sickness is going to come in the future. There's going to be a depression. And the medicine of the land will be the cure for you. And the medicine that they're going to try and find, they won't find it. It's sad to say it that way, but we must do a lot of prayer with the Spirit, and anything we do before we say anything, go to the Spirit, because everything has Spirit. Every human being, everything, the whole world has Spirit. And he said that we're going to go through a big depression, and I don't want to put down people today and get sad. We need to pray and be together and to be real together. And also the minings and all these things are affecting all life. And up in the sky, and my grandpa Lonzo, he spoke to fire and he spoke to the stars. And the stars had their names. And they would tell you what's going to happen. He said the following year, this year, next year, you're going to be all flooded here. Sure shot, the same month he said we had a flood. He's seen things ahead. And even that little hand teaches you something. And I was playing with him, and he said he's very special. He's going to be your helper. He said he's stronger than an elephant. He carries things more than his size. Everything was special. And every human being is special. Everybody has a gift inside. And when he had all the people here, my grandfathers lived with me. I had a lot of people living with me, young people. I was young when I got married. My house was always full. But the one good thing, my two grandfathers kept my wood stove going.
Okay.
And they were really a lot of fun. And they were and not only them, like with my grandmother, she's a Kishkonakwat in Kabo Nation. My grandfather spoke of the thunderbird when he came down, formed to a man to the fire, which was the spirit that was left to all the world. And he took a little boy and said, this boy will come back. It's all about love. And if you speak, my father said, make sure you have your facts. And if you lie, you need a long memory. And if you tell the truth, you don't need a memory. If you forgive, there you have a new life. And my mom and dad loved everybody. The door was wide open all the time. So it didn't matter who it was. And my mom was a medicine woman, and many of my elders here in this community, the old people, I'm not used to elders saying that, but the old people, I was always around them, and they were very, very unique. Anything happened to somebody, everybody would come and gather and give you and pray with you or talk with you, keep you to not get too depressed or anything. They were always at the door somewhere, and they taught all the magazines. My mother, all of them. She made the code for Trudeau, and my father went to Denmark and brought a canoe there and met the Queen. And I also traveled a lot with my father because I was very glued to my dad. And my dad taught me a lot of things, and he was a big reader. And he taught me how to go to the Spirit and to the Mother Earth, to the Creator, and those that would not be with you, it's not their fault. It's you have to pray and to try and find that unity. The most thing of my father, his biggest dream, the biggest, is the Mother Earth, to respect that Mother Earth and give her. People are short of water. We may not have that long, and we may not have anything long. We don't know how the prophecy will come out to, but we must need to help all one another and follow the people about the health about it, and at the same time, though, we'll find out if there will be a cure. But we go to as I don't know how good the medicine is today, because today everything is contaminated. So, like Sitting Bull said, you won't be able to eat your money. When you see the fish dying on the water, which we see today, And and they knew all that, the old people. Every place in all the world that came here, everybody shared something very special with us. And it's not what you're doing. It's what is given to you from every human being, what they had their special spirit inside them. And we became a family. And you were there. We were all together. And my dad, that was his dream of the vision when the little bird came to him when he had cancer. And that's how he did it. And he was also a super chief of the North American Indian Nation. He was also a chief for many years in council with the elders. And of course, I was looking at a picture of him, Romola, about the wooden Papanawatik.
Oh, yeah?
He looks just like him.
Didn't I say so?
It's unbelievable. He looks just like him, his old ancestor.
Yeah, I say that other one is not the right one, but this one,
This one is.
in the carving, it's exactly that, yeah.
And my dad brought me to Switzerland, brought me to meet the elders across North America. And they're all elders. The old people have the same, different, a little bit different, but meaning the same. And they give you all kind of story and tell you the revelation of what's going to happen. Thomas Banyaka, Ernie Benedict, all these old people, they were special, and now they're all going. They're all gone. And they're now the Western life is very big there now, but the whole Indian life was very sacred and special. If I was, it was very, very special. And this is something we can't lose. And you can't buy it. And they told me, don't buy love and don't sell love. And when you use a medicine, when the gift, whatever gift you receive, it doesn't mean one is better than the other. It's the fact is when you do a ceremony, you go to the Spirit. He's not for sale. The Heavenly Father of all mankind. And it says, anyway, he said that we were going to be hungry again. And we might not, we're going to have to find out how to live again, how we're going to do it. And today, education is nice, but the thing is that how are we going to survive? And it has to stop all that stuff that they're doing and forgive one another from country to country because they're all affected. And that's a prayer that I ask for all the time and to all my community. Because the elders in the community, they beat me because my mom and dad took me. So they were all my grandmothers. They were good to me, taught me things and everything. From Mishomis, my mother was from, and my father was from Lake of Two Mountains, his ancestral. And my grandpa, Smith, he says, he told me, he said, you're going to see many things true, and there's going to be all kinds of civil war, all kind of war, not like what I've seen. So he said the biggest thing is to pray and taught me how to love everybody, to love the people. I'll get mad a little bit, I'll feel bad, but yet I'm not a perfect person. I feel for my grandchildren, and I lost my first great one this past year. And many things have happened, and I also lost my great grandchild. My grandchild, I mean.
Yes.
So all this affects the family, and for the things that, the one thing I'm not for is that the marijuana, it belongs in the country, it's medicine to these countries, that this grows. That's another thing we were warned with our old people. There's a lot of new plants come over here, but the plants don't get long. It really, they don't live good because they belong to the ancestral people of that area. North America is like around you when in Kilgon we have certain medicines. If we go further up we might find something else, but it's in the same ground. But we have to stick with our people, Mano and Inuit, they called them. That's why they traveled with their canoes along the way, sometimes for medicine, for go in the bush and hunt. And but the medicine is something very, very well. Everything is sacred. It's how we use it, and it's to show other people of what the seven grandmother teachings. We don't try to beat one another, who is better, who is worse. Whereas that's why my father made a circle of all nations, and you know that there's no one leading. The one is there. You go. We were always told when you go to another place or visit some place, you pass something to the old people. But the other part is the great. My father, why he wanted the circle was because the Creator is the boss, and the big spirit, the great spirit. The saddest thing for me, for my father, there's nothing that we there's nothing that my father didn't know till the end of his breath that I always told my father everything, and he also taught me. And I was sometimes it took me long, and he never told anyone what to do. That's another thing. And he listened, and he didn't care where that person was from, and he didn't also look at what color they are or what they did in life. He accepted everybody, and my mom was the same.
Yes, tell us about how your mother explained Anishinaabe.
Anishinaabe, Anishi means the good. Nabe is the man. Anishinaabe is a good human, a man, a good human.
Mm-hmm.
When you say Anishinaabe, the good people. And if you go to, I was talking with Thomas Banyaka when I last seen him, it means the Hopi means the good people. I talked to another tribe, the good people. So someone put the good people in North America, but we don't have another country to take our language. It's very visible for us to know we're walking on our ancestors. That's another thing. And and also, when you look at Ojagano, my father talking about the squirrel, when he starts going, he doesn't go backwards. And when you go through these healings, when you go through finding ourselves, sometimes we're late, and sometimes we learn early. But the good thing, the language is what gets you very much into the native life because of what your first language was. And it's planted, and then it was taken away from us. And that's where the old people were crying and tried to get their children. So it became a place where we were too pagan, and yet we knew all the sacred. We knew there was a creator.
Yes.
And so Grandpa Longhorn, not only with the fire, I caught on to the fire years later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were very, very fortunate because they provided you with so many amazing teachings, so much of support, so much of love.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, so it's a big story, and you've mentioned so many of the things that your father was passionate about: the language, Mother Earth, the
Oh, yeah.
the races, the people. Uh,
Very much.
yeah, and you know this is very special what you've been sharing because what we've been trying to say, well, as you know, with his honorary degrees and his
Yeah.
Order of Canada and all of that, But what we are trying to show is from the indigenous grassroots, from the community, or from everywhere we can learn,
Yeah.
and we must all learn and come together.
Yeah, he brought me to United Nations too.
Yes.
Brought me, even both of us went to New Mexico all over the place.
Yes, we met many special elders like that. Yes. So
And it was a lot of fun. And remember, he seen the big drum and said, I'm taking that. I said, how are you going to take that? We're going to find a way. The drum is in his place.
yeah,
And our people made the skin on it.
right, right. So
He was, my dad was, the saddest thing is about Mother Earth and the water, that some of our people are drinking contaminated water. Here there's uranium all over, and there's gold mines and all that, and our children are landed working in them places, and they may be very sick in a very early age.
yeah, we've got lots of challenges. It's time of crisis and emergency right now,
Yeah,
and we have to pray for wake up. And this particular day, December 21st, it's a big moment in the earth and the earth cycle, and hopefully more and more of us will wake up to Mother Earth. Now, you in a few days have a birthday, so can we say a very big happy birthday to you? And very best wishes for the next stage in your journey.
mm-hmm.
And then Evelyn, maybe sometime we can do another kind of Facebook Live, and you can just talk a little bit more about all the things you want to talk about.
Well, there was a song that my dad sang to their grandfathers, and someday I will sing it to you. And but I love singing with the spirit.
Okay. Do
Now,
you want to sing it right now, and then we?
I'll sing a little bit of it about the grandfather and the grandmother. What you say?
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
okay. Nimisho Mr. Banke Doko Banek Yangwa Mineki Westi Siman Ahe 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 Kechi Nogan Niga Kwejima Kesi Jamanido Iya Jamanido Ugadani Mishinong Migwet Jamanido Ondi Jojo Aki Ondi Nipi Nongron Uden Nishnonchi Sagi Win Nasavigani Kokane Sabanek Kidogo Banek Yang Guang Minik Kibeno Disimag Remanido Kakina Kinawa Nilnodim Nakag Within Nishnam Nishom Nisag Kinashe Kokanisag Nikweshonji Kakina Madazluin Ashish Jamanowa Atek Binjayin Nidin Kitimi Gwachamanigo. Praise. I like to follow the spirit about the Neshama saying that to watch out for the life of the animals, and the grandmother telling us to watch our children, the new, and also talking about asking the Creator to think of us in the Great Spirit, and to the four directions of the grandmothers and the grandfathers, that they don't forget us. for all the life of Mother Earth and everything in our hearts. And I was cheering at the same time.
Okay.
Oh, my dad. Anyway, I talk to my father every day, like you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Africa. Another thing, my father got me to I love all the places, and I was so happy to dance in Africa and Ottawa.
Okay.
But I love all the countries, and got to be with the Dalai Lama with my father, and got to see Mandela with my dad, and of course I was with Gandhi's great grandson, and and the MRA was very nice to us. Wherever we went, we were always treated nice. But me and you had a lot of fun with Dada too. But I'm just saying it was beautiful. And my life was good. I never got hit and I never got scolded.
Well, that sounds pretty special. Well, one day maybe we'll do a Facebook Live and you'll just talk about your story.
Yeah, there's lots of stories.
Okay, do you want to say Merry Christmas to everybody now? So, because
Merry Christmas to all the world. The time of the Christ child Jesus was born. I had a time to understand, but it's when the Jesus' birth came to us.
okay,
And, I wish everybody faith, hope, and charity,
okay,
and that we pray today, every day, and talk when we get up with the Spirit to guide our day, which is all inside of all of us.
oh,
Gretch.
me Gretch, very much indeed.
Yeah.
So I'll talk to you later.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you so much for sharing all of that. And thank you for the beautiful, beautiful song.
Yeah, and I could use a lot of prayers.
Okay.
Yeah, I love you all.
Okay. Take care.
And I love you too.
Thank you very much.
My sister. Okay. Love you, Deb.
Okay. Love you too. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was a special moment indeed. Thank you very much, Evelyn, for joining us and sharing. And um, and for bringing to us the thoughts and memories about your parents, your grandparents, and the old people. Miigwech. And as you know, the reason we're doing these Facebook Live events is because we're trying very, very hard to bridge between the ways of life, the thinking, the of the indigenous peoples, of the grassroots people who were part of Grandfather William Commander's Circle of All Nations, of the NGOs who engage with them, particularly the ones involved in peace building and environmental stewardship, between the government departments that he impacted upon, the government workers that he impacted upon, the federal government, the provincial government, the municipal governments. And when the University of Ottawa and then later the University of Quebec Outaouais presented Grandfather Commander with his honorary degrees, we tried to both go to school formally to register in the academic world some of his thinking. Unfortunately, we were so busy before he died that we weren't able to do that. But since then, um, uh, the completion of our thesis on Grandfather Commander is a further effort to do the kind of bridge building. Now, I'm going to race through this PowerPoint presentation because I know some of you know Grandfather Commander and his Circle of All Nations very well, and others of you may be new to us. But the reason I suppose this is so important for us to share is because we want the kind of integrated approach to knowledge generation that Grandfather Commander accomplished with his Circle of All Nations community to help us during these challenging times, because we know we're living in the times of prophecy that Grandpa Smith had anticipated, and it is indeed, in many respects, a very, very strange and unprecedented dark moment in time where the whole globe is challenged. And so we're hoping that some of the thoughts of William Commander, where he would like us to come together with one heart, one mind, one love, and one determination to create a circle of all nations, a culture of peace, will manifest. And there he carries the three-figure wampum belt, where the indigenous in the center welcomed the newcomers and made a sacred commitment to share their land and their grand natural resources with us, a commitment that we have yet to reciprocate in the same spirit of caring. But despite everything that Grandfather Commander and activists knew about what was transforming his homeland in a not so very positive way, he still affirmed that gesture of friendship to all of us. So he moved from being a kindergarten dropout. Here he is lighting the candle for the peace, um, the Landmines Treaty peace event, tobacco at the Chaudière Falls, and the honorary degree recipient. And actually, he delivered the convocation speech, and was very pleased to be part also of the academic world. And so, in his priorities, the Circle of All Nations, in terms of the relationship building amongst people and sustainable relationships with Mother Earth, were the key elements in his work. And these were themes created the ideological foundations of his work: the canoe and the journey, the sustainable relationships, the laws of nature, the importance of animals, nature, evolution, and peace, the Circle of All Nations bridge building, his kindergarten dropout book, moving on to becoming an acknowledged leader in the mainstream world, the spiritual trajectory to knowledge, digital mapping and reflection, and then Jinawe Daganuk, his word for everything is related. And with that, he animated those ideological foundations in the 1945 activism and politics, as in civil rights. Indigenous peoples were the forerunners in the civil rights movement, way before we became so conscious of the issues of the Black people in the States. 1967, he affirmed Indigenous presence in North America as Canada celebrated her 100th birthday. 1969, he hosted the first gathering of Indigenous peoples from North America at his home in Kiriganzidi, where Evelyn now lives. Um, he hosted numerous national to global events and made presentations at critical moments on Mother Earth and uh, sorry, climate change. Impacted upon the Agenda 21, the UN's agenda regarding environmental issues. And we transformed the term sustainable development to sustainable relationships in the kinds of work we try to initiate. He was a participant in the Sunwolf 5 walk, and we've talked a lot about it over this past year because this is its 25th anniversary. With the, okay, exactly here, with the report of the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples, he asked who would drink the water in the Ottawa River, really um, underlining the fact that Indigenous life was irrevocably linked with the survival with the purity of the water, with an environment that was healthy. And just recently, one of our students, Emmeline Saylor, um, completed a paper on reproduction rights, reproduction uh, justice. And there you can see, almost 20 years later, an articulation of what grandfather alerted us to in 1996. Now, even in the birthing of so many children and indigenous children, there are also already evidence of um, so many defects that are transforming their capacity to live healthy lives. Uh, from 1996, there were the gatherings and then the non-stop outreach, a global eco peace event in 2000, water life workshop to waking up people to the state of the Ottawa River and other waterways. And then with the Asanabka, he developed the legacy vision for the sacred Shaudia site so that some of this work would become part of an eco peace think tank that would continue. And impart the indigenous notions of spirit and knowledge in the ongoing evolution of human thinking. Here we actually took a photograph of the totem pole that was still standing a year ago. Um, the one that grandfather erected when he did his first international gathering in Canada in 1967, Eganville. Here, the Sunbow 5 Walk commemorative poster, and here our peace poster from the United Nations Decade for a Culture of Peace. Who is William Commanda? He's a carrier of the sacred wampum heritage, a renowned birch bark canoe maker and craftsman, a political Algonquin leader, chief of the North American Indian Nations government, founder of the Circle of All Nations, a global eco-community dedicated to advancing environmental stewardship, racial harmony, Office of the Order of Canada, and recipient of 2 honorary degrees. University of Ottawa Chancellor Michael Jean created the Commanda Hall in recognition of his relevance to academic knowledge in 2018. Later, I'll show you Carlton's honor of Elder Commanda just a few weeks ago, from just a few weeks ago. And in the Canadian History Hall, there's a Commanda panel and message acknowledging his messages. This tells you a little bit about how we evolved the Circle of All Nations discourse around our version of a medicine wheel, where we move through a process of visioning, planning, action, reflection, and articulation of the best of our ideas. And we develop that again and again and again. And in essence, we're seeing the manifestation that we'd like to evolve is a vision of unity, a community of love, forgiveness generating the healing, and a wisdom that contains the essence of peace. Why study William Commanda? And in a sense, what we're doing now is trying to link between our grassroots learnings from Elder Commanda and our efforts to position him also in the academic world, where we think his way of thinking is of critical importance. He alerted us to the climate change, to the environmental crises that were evolving in 1987 on the national stage, in 1991 on the international stage at the Rio conference, and it's taken us more than 25, 30 years to begin to awaken to the new words that we use, climate change, etc. And we still, despite all the advantages of our science and global knowledge, have not come to grips with something that is really, really devastating and transforming the earth and leading to the demise of countless species. So it's important for us to try to figure out how William Commanda and his ancestors and his indigenous peoples understood Mother Earth and what they've been trying to alert us to for some time. And he's been influential on environmental issues, peace issues, and And it's building on that legacy that we think it's critically important, really, with the acceleration, climate change, environmental crisis of global impact, that attest to the urgent need for new innovative approaches to knowledge generation. We now have COVID. 3 days after the Rio Earth Summit, three things predominate in environmental issues: the voice and the place of the indigenous, Western domination of thinking in a world on fire, and global connections and interrelatedness of problems and solutions. So our research has focused on bridge building, and and today our focus is on the cosmogeographic groundedness in the footsteps of the ancestors. And here we're acknowledging especially the December 21st winter solstice, Grandfather Commander's thoughts on the cosmos, Mother Earth, and prophecy, spatial and temporal issues, environment and relational issues, how they've informed contemporary debates on indigenous and non-indigenous relations in thinking and action, and whether they can contribute to greater contemporary integration of his and Isanabi approach to knowledge generation in academic discourse. And that brings me then to um, where in my formal agenda I wanted to talk a little bit about the um, hmm, contributions of, just let me go back to the highlights of 2020, uh, having finished with that little background on Grandfather Commander. So from March 2020, we've been working from home. And that has obliged us to learn how to use Facebook to great effect. And we're most grateful to Facebook that we've been able to host these live Circle of All Nations events, uh, accessible to anybody really around the globe. And because we're able to keep the videos um, on our Circle of All Nations Facebook page, people have been able to go through them and go to them at their leisure. Some of our sessions are rather long. Actually, today's was supposed to be only an hour, but I can see that we'll easily be going close to a couple of hours. Uh, Feel free to leave us when you need to, but feel free to also come back and watch our documentaries so that you grasp the thread of thinking that we're wanting to register for today, uh, December 21st. And in this context, we've hosted maybe a dozen Facebook Live events on all sorts of important themes, and we have gone all over the place. And you maybe can consider in retrospect that this has been a year of right brain sharing. And next year we will become a little bit more focused on individual topics so that we can take you through from one idea from beginning to end, and help contribute to a better understanding of the William Commander web of knowledge and intermesh of knowledge. We wrote two important papers, one on, sorry, that's going to just keep ringing for a few minutes, on isolation and coronavirus, viewed through the lens of Indigenous elder William Commander. And in that paper, we also talked about coronavirus and the Wolf Project, and the fact that both Elder Commander and Nelson Mandela were recipients of Wolf Project awards, one called Corona Borealis and the other called Corona Australis. And it's just ironic that 2 days ago, my sister Beulah alerted me to the fact that there is a new variant of the coronavirus in South Africa. And they believe this variant spread from Nelson Mandela Bay near Port Elizabeth. I just think it's so ironic that the name is Nelson Mandela Bay. We wrote another important paper, and this was on the 3rd of August, the anniversary of Grandfather Commander's death. and you'll find that and on our Asanabka website pretty soon. And with this one, you may recall that there was the great tropical storm on the anniversary of grandfather's passing, and its name was Isaias. It was a name actually that grandfather was alerted to 2 or 3 days before he died, and so it's a significant um, reflection on indigenous ways of knowing and what the implications of a dimension in the pathway to knowledge might be. We've also put our effort into academic research papers, and I've been very busy with that this past year. So, um, uh, where we've explored grandfather's journey on the land, his discourse, the oral heritage, his wampum heritage, and the storytelling embedded in it. And in this way, try to bridge between what he actually did and what he wanted others to understand in this effort of integration. We've celebrated the anniversaries of the Peace Gathering and the Sunbow 5 Walk. We did comprehensive presentations on Donald Marshall Jr. so people would understand um, his priorities better. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We did an informal learning from a kindergarten dropout course and gained much insight and many additional resources as a result of that effort. And here we go. Carleton students have engaged in Circle of All Nations research. Um, One of them is Muduran Murugathasan, and you already saw his image of grandfather William Commanda. And he also did one on Donald Marshall Jr. And I'm going to go and show you those just in a second. But one of my other students, Dilara Erver, who's also part of our kindergarten dropout class, created another one of our infographics. Um, our co-op student, April, created the Circle of All Nations landing page and began working on our new blog site. Now the students are doing archive work and research and organization of Circle websites. PhD, a legal studies student, Andrew Costa, has been a constant participant in our Circle of All Nations work and presented many interesting legal ideas on Indigenous UNDRIP related challenges and opportunities. Karam Bishan, who maintains our Asanabka website, has done most of the graphic work for us since the beginning of time, including our Circle of All Nations book, Learning from a Kindergarten Dropout. Also created a beautiful commemorative video, which I've played before, and I'll maybe play at the end of this session. And St. Paul's University has become somewhat engaged with us through the paper that Jolianne Lamontagne did on Grandfather Commanda, Forgiveness, the Circle of All Nations. She and her family were regular participants in Circle of All Nations gatherings, and actually Patrick did a video on grandfather's work. Then I wanted to show you this. Saturday Night Post. And now we're moving on to the, oh, sorry, pardon me, give me a minute, people, let me go back to the PowerPoint presentation. And here, let me show you the image created by Dilara, which she called "We Are Not All Equal." And this was around about the time when we were becoming increasingly concerned about COVID and environmental crises, as well as the huge outpouring of racism and killing. And, um, and so we actually use that image when we really can't talk about the issues because it says it all to us, and it impacts our thinking about people as much as it impacts our thinking about um, Mother Earth and other issues. This is the other image that Maduran Murugathasan created for us um, when we did our workshops on Donald Marshall Jr. Now, this young Carleton University architecture student really knew nothing about Grandfather Commander or the Circle of All Nations a couple of months ago, but he's just grasped the essence of our efforts and has been able to pull together some amazing images for me in a matter of hours, a matter of few days, and I'm really, really grateful for that because, of course, we're in the age of graphic sharing, and as if everybody knows, I like to write a long, long story, and in fact, we need to be much snappier with this. But this image shows us how Donald Marshall Jr. became impacted by the criminal justice system from age 16, and he served federal time for a crime he hadn't committed. He is well known, is best known perhaps today because of his fight for indigenous rights to their natural resources. And of course, the fisheries issue has preoccupied the country this last many months. And you will find a documentary where we specifically discuss that issue. But not enough people know that he also had a tremendous passion for youth and created the Donald Marshall Youth Camp, the first safe park to encourage indigenous peoples to return to their culture to find strength and strengthen their young people who are facing tremendous challenges in this day and age. With many, particularly those in the criminal justice system, looking at the near genocidal future. And finally, was a recipient of the Wolf Project Award. And the Wolf Project honors people who promote racial harmony and peace building. And despite all the injustice that he had to struggle with, he lent his hand out in friendship to criminal justice people, to multiple races. He was a strong friend of the Circle of All Nations, and he too, with Grandfather Commander, put his ideas and spirit and energy into the creation of the vision for the Asanabka uh, Shaudia, Victoria Island Indigenous Peace and Healing Eco Center. It's been, of course, challenged, and so that vision, of course, hasn't evolved as well as so many of us pray, and as folk like the Free the Falls people and Benjamin do continue with affirming that need for the indigenous at the sacred Shaudia, the spirit of the people in this important area. More about that later. This is the landing page that April worked on so patiently over the summer, and this will take you eventually to all our Circle of All Nations places of information. It will lead you to our archival sites, to our Facebook fast-paced cybernetic pages, and we have 5 of them. We keep busy on them to address the needs of our uh, diverse uh, group of colleagues and friends. We have a site dedicated to Asanabka work and legacy, and the archival documents there are of historical importance. And we're in the process of creating a cybercartographic digital atlas to serve as a live atlas spot for the holding of the William Commander information. There, I'm most grateful to my supervisor, Professor Fraser Taylor, for his years of patience um, um, and support in my research. And I'm also grateful to the geomatics and cartographic research team for their work in developing this amazing platform for digital storytelling, where the story, the mapping, returns to the hands of the actual storytellers. such that we can then input uh, uh, as we might with leaving our records, and in this instance, the records of Grandfather William Commander. He actually wanted to do this work in maybe 2007. So, what I am doing right now is just uh, continuing and fulfilling his interests and desires. And the landing page takes you then to our 2000 archival site and our 2012 archival Circle of All Nations sites. And just recently, a professor was telling me that he had been researching our sites, and that has enabled him to understand the ideas, and that has contributed to some of his own articulation. So we know, though they're 2,000 years or 20 years old, lots of important and totally relevant information on them. Our Facebook pages, our Synapka site, and our cytocartographic atlas. And then finally, here's an amazing thing. This now is a greeting that the president and vice chancellor of Carleton University just put out a couple of days ago. Best wishes for the holiday season and the new year, thanking staff who've managed so patiently through this tremendously challenging year in the academic world, but also, acknowledging Grandfather William Commander. Now, please excuse me a minute because my eyes are not so good anymore, and I'm wearing my mother's glasses to read this to you. As a tribute to the late Anishinaabe elder Grandfather William Commander, the Light Keeper is a ceiling installation located in Carleton's Ojigwanang Indigenous Student Center. Ojigwanang is an Algonquin word that means morning star, and as you know, was grandfather's name. The center supports First Nations, Inuit, and Métis students through their academic journeys at Carleton University. Designed and built by Manuel Baez, professor of the Alcil School of Architecture and Utilitarian